Hi everyone, and welcome to another tutorial from Colour with Claire. Today I'm going to be showing you how to colour different types of fruit. Now this has come about because I put a poll on my Instagram and my Facebook page asking what people wanted to see, and so many of you asked me to do tutorials of how to colour food. A few of you wanted me to do it in Ivy and the Inky Butterfly on the banquet scene, but an awful lot of you just wanted general food colouring tutorials, and I think some of you might be a little bit wary of seeing lots of Inky Ivy tutorials because they're all over the place at the moment. So what I thought I'd do is make a general colouring food tutorial so that it's not applicable to any book, but it's also applicable to all books. So I've got a sheet here that's got loads of fruits on it. It does go beyond the video, it's just that I've zoomed it in, so we'll move it up and down as we go. Now this today is just the fruits, but I also have coming for you a video on how to colour vegetables as a sneak preview. And lastly, or thirdly, if you want me to do another one after that, I don't know, this is all sweet treats and things like breads, cakes, things like that. So that'll be coming up in another 2 videos after this, and if you're watching this video quite far into the future, they'll already be done. So go and look on the playlist and you can carry on watching these tutorials. Okay, so as always I'm going to be using Prismacolor pencils because they are my favourite pencils, but you are always welcome to use whatever pencils or pens or anything you have in your colouring arsenal. So if it helps you, I do have a Prismacolor Polychromos conversion chart. I also have a Prismacolor Polychromos Tombow marker conversion chart, and I'll link those in the description for you to check out, and then you can convert any of the colours that I used today. Also, this chart is going to be available for free download in the links below so that you can download and practice on this sheet along with me. So let's get started without further ado. Now we've got some apples here, and as you can see I've printed several of the same thing because this is a practice sheet after all. And as you can see here on the right, I've given a little tip box of what colours you could try and use with each apple or pear or peach or whatever else is on there. So you don't have to use these colours, but these are the colours I'm going to be using, and they're the colours that I recommend. Now lastly, before I actually get onto it and stop going on, I am not a professional colourist. I am sort of self-taught. I'm not perfect by any means. They're not going to look like hyper-realistic pick it up and bite it fruits because I'm just not that talented. So I hope that what I produce today will be helpful for beginner colourists and sort of intermediate colourists, but please don't expect it to be amazing because it just won't be. But we'll see how we go. Right, I'm definitely going to start colouring now. So here we've got apples, and I've put here try apple green and Prussian green. So I've got my Prismacolor pencils next to me now, and I'm just going to pull those colours. So we've got Prussian green, and quite aptly we've got apple green. And what I do here first is I always seem to do the dark colours first. So we'll start with the Prussian green, and we're going to start on the left hand side of the apple because that's what I'm going to have as the darkest side, and we're going to follow the curve of the line with the green and a bit over the bump at the bottom as well, and always sort of following this curve. If we think of the apple as comparative to a sphere shape or a circle, a 3D circle, we do want a bit of a highlight in this upper right corner. So we're going to sort of gradiate the 2 colours. Now the reason I've only used I think most of them are maximum 4 colours on this practice sheet is because fruits aren't massive in colouring books. They always seem to be in little baskets or, you know, on tables and things like that. They're not massive. So I've printed these fruits fairly small, big enough that you can still fit some colours on there, but not too big where you sort of have too many colours to put on, too many gradients, and then you get into a colouring book and they're just so tiny you can't fit all those colours on there. So I've tried to keep the colours sort of very low in amounts, so we're not doing loads and loads of different colours. Now as you can see, I'm just making sure that we leave a very, very light dusting of colour as we come up and into the second half of the apple. So we're darker in this area. And then I'm going to take the apple green and go over the edges of the Prussian green that we just dusted down there. We just feathered some colour out just to help that blend on its way. If we did it really harsh dark green all the way up to there with a sort of very harsh line, we wouldn't have much of a gradient. So that's why I've sort of brushed on a little bit of colour to help blend the two together. And I'm going to go right to the edge with the apple green, and hopefully you should have quite a nice two colour blend just from that so far. Now you can always go back in with your darker colour and darken up even further these edges just to heighten that contrast a little bit more, give it a bit of a 3D look. But that's personal preference, it's totally up to you. And the only other thing that you will need for my tutorials, because I'm obsessed with it, is a white gel pen. And just do a little highlight on the edge, and I think that really brings the fruit to life. It does give it that shine, it does make it look more like a 3D object, so I'm always using my white gel pen where I can. So that is basically it, a two colour blend. We've got Prussian green, we've got apple green, and you know, it's not perfect, it's not brilliant, but it does look a little bit more dimensional than a flat colour. Now also I've put here, you can use crimson red and permanent red, because of course we do have green and red apples, and I'm sure there are other colours of apples as well, but green and red are the most sort of popular. So crimson red, pull that out, and the permanent red. So again, it's another simple two colour blend with a darker and a lighter red, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. I'm not going to fill all of these in, don't worry, I'm just going to do one example of the colours that I've listed so that you can colour along with me and see it sort of done in situ, and then I'll move on to the next item. So again, following the contour of the line, making it really dark over here on this edge, and then slowly sort of buffing it very lightly, lightening the pressure as we move into the right hand side of the apple. Now I'm not going to be showing you how to colour leaves on the top of these fruits, because everybody knows by now how to colour leaves, and if you don't, please go and check out the leaf videos that I did for Ivy and the Ink Butterfly Daughter Enchantia colour along on the YouTube channel, because we spent about 2 or 3 videos purely just colouring leaves. So now I'm coming on here with the permanent red, so I've left that really fuzzy, very light layer of the crimson red. I'm going over it so that we blend, and I do use quite hard pressure, I am guilty of doing that, and I've snapped quite a few leads in my time because I just can't seem to keep my pressure light, but it also burnishes it really quickly, and that's just how I prefer to colour. But if you want to layer and layer and layer, you can do. As you can see, I'm also going out of the lines because I'm not precise, but if you've watched my tutorial videos you will know that by now. So as you can see, we've got a two colour blend. Not sure how vibrant it's showing up on camera, but if you do want to darken that contrast, you can come in with a little bit of Crimson Lake just on the bottom here, on the bottom curve. Don't go too far with it, and that might just heighten your contrast a little bit, because those two reds that we use, they are dark and light, but they are quite similar in tone, so you can just add a little bit of the darker colour. And don't forget, of course, a little white gel pen highlight. There we go. So that is the apples. Now we're moving on to the peaches, and for this one we actually have 4 different colours on the peach. Now let's pull those out. So we've got the crimson red, we've already got that one. We've got the cadmium orange hue, we've got yellowed orange, and we've got sunburst yellow. So 4 different colours. Obviously peach, and as I said, fruits, they're quite small in colouring books, but we're just going to do our best. So always starting off with the darker colour, that's just my preference. We're going to start at the bottom half of this peach with the darkest colour, the crimson red. And we're just going to, again, follow the line, bring it up, getting lighter and lighter in pressure as we do so. Okay, and then the next colour is the cadmium orange hue. And we're going over that light pressure that we left, that light layer. And again, bringing it out a little bit higher. And what you can do is this sort of contour on the peach here, you can bring that up a little bit just to show that that contour is there. Next lightest colour is the yellowed orange. Again, we're going over and above what we've already done. And lastly, the sunburst yellow, just for this top area here. And with the sunburst yellow, you can go over the whole of it just to burnish it a little bit more, lighten it up slightly if you find that you've gone too far with your dark colours, and just keep playing with it until you're happy. And that is basically how to do a peach. Just keep, you know, obviously I'm doing this quite quickly for time reasons, but you know, just keep playing with it until you're happy. Prismacolor's perfect pencils for just playing with it, because you can sort of manipulate the wax with the next pencil. So if you've gone too far with the red, you can sort of erase it with the next lightest pencil. So they are good for that reason. So there we go, there is the peach. Now the next one, we have a blackberry. You could use it as a raspberry, of course, because they're quite similar in how they look, but this is a blackberry that I'm doing here. Now I've got black grape and raspberry on this particular fruit. So let's just pull those colours. Black grape, raspberry and black. Okay, so if you look at a blackberry, which I'm sure you've all done at some point, you will notice that there are quite a few different colours in it. The majority of it is black or a very, very dark purpley blue, but occasionally you will get a very sort of reddish, bright berry segment in there as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to colour a few of these segments in black, a few of them in the black grape, and then whatever's left we're going to stick in some raspberry. So just to note on that peach there, I didn't do my white gel pen highlight because peaches have quite a matte texture and they're quite sort of fuzzy and they're not very shiny, so that's why. So moving on. Right, so we're going to colour, let me just sharpen this 1 second. Very, very noisy. We're just going to colour some of these in black. The majority of them will be black and black grape, and just a few, there goes the tip, just a few of whatever's left over with the raspberry. So there's no rhyme or reason to this, just sort of pick out any that you like. And if you're not really sure where to go next, move on to your next colour and you can come back and put some black in if you want to. So for example, not really sure where I should do more blacks on this, so we'll move on to the black grape colour and we'll just colour some in at random. So this black grape is a lovely deep, deep purple colour. And it's very dark and it's very fitting for a blackberry, because the berries, they aren't really black. As soon as you bite into one or you get one, you know, the juice squished on your hand, you'll see it is very red. So these colours are really perfect for blackberries. So again, just doing random ones, hopefully the colour contrast between the black and the black grape is showing on camera, because they are obviously quite dark. Now when again you figure that you don't know where to put this one, you can go in with your raspberry. Just don't forget that raspberry shouldn't appear on too many segments, so it's more of a sort of random one or two here and there. So we're going to pop a few raspberries in. I'm thinking no more than that really, because it is sort of something that only shows up on very select sort of berries. It's not as common as the black or the black grape colours. So we'll fill the rest in with the black and the black grape. Eventually you'll have something that looks like this. So it's all coloured in, it's all sort of bunched together, and of course we need to put our highlight on there because berries are very shiny. Now we're not going to do obviously a big highlight like we did down the apple. We're going to highlight each segment individually, and it's not as scary as it sounds. So all you have to do is put a dot in the top right hand corner of every berry. Now again, this isn't Bob Ross, this isn't masterclass colouring, but it's just a quick and quite effective way of making your berries look 3D. So you can see just that little bit of shine on there really brings it out. So next we're moving on to pears. Now this one I have put try green ochre, artichoke, lime peel and sand. So we've got another 4 colour blend. So let's get those out. We've got green ochre, artichoke, lime peel and sand. So here we are with our colours. Now, starting at the bottom again like we did with the peach, we're going to put in our darkest colour, which is the green ochre. Following the contour of the bottom of the pear again. Nothing fancy here, very, very quick and simple, making sure that we lighten our pressure as we move up the fruit, ready for the next colour, which is artichoke. So we're going over and above the green ochre. Next colour, lime peel. And this is the sort of very greenish part of the pear. Pears do have lots of different greens, browns and yellows in them, so it's trying to get that balance right. And we have a little area at the top that we're going to finish with the sand colour. And we're going to use that lightest colour just to blend over the whole thing. So that it's nice and seamless. And now what I do is I go back in with the green ochre, the darkest colour, and just give it a little bit of green just at the top here, because pears do seem to go a little bit darker where the stem comes out. And of course, if you put too much or you're not happy with how harsh it looks, just get your sand out again and just blend that down until it looks a little bit more realistic. And again, pears, they're not very shiny fruit, they're quite matte, so I'm not going to do a highlight on this one. Now I need to move my sheet up, so just bear with me 1 second. I've taped it down to the desk. So here we go, trying to get it up. Okay. So let's move on to our next 4 types of fruit. Just make sure that's pretty lined up, and then tape it down again so it doesn't slide about everywhere. Okay, So next we've got these grapes. Now I've given 3 different options for grapes because usually you will get the green grapes, the sort of very reddish grapes, and then the black grapes. So the colours I've used here are pale sage and yellow chartreuse for the green grapes. So pale sage, yellow chartreuse. These are 2 very, very light colours. The yellow chartreuse is quite bright as well, but the pale sage is quite pale. And if you've noticed on green grapes, they have quite a translucent look to them. They're not just green. They do look very, not glassy, but they just look quite translucent. So I've kept it very light. I've just not gone on there with a bright green or anything. So what we do on these is we use the pale sage, 1 second, there goes the sharpener. We use the pale sage to create a C shape on the left hand side of each grape. So it might be difficult to see on camera with it being such a light colour, but a C shape following the curve of each segment of each grape. Obviously going to need quite a sharp pencil for this, so just do be careful. Now once you've got all of your C shapes done, you can come in with a yellow chartreuse and simply colour in the rest of the grape. Now these are green grapes. They are meant to look translucent, quite light in colour. Green grapes aren't bright green, as I said. So this is sort of to try and make it look a little bit more realistic if possible. Now you can go back in as I'm doing here with the pale sage, but it's very, very subtle, this one. You might choose to just go and do green on your green grapes, bright apple green or something like that. Totally, totally fine. This is just a different and a little bit more of a subtle way to do your green grapes. And as I said, not sure how well that contrast is showing up, but it does look really, really nice in person, believe me. Okay, so the next one is the raspberry and processed red. So raspberry we already have out from earlier, and the processed red is here. Now 1 sec, going to do some sharpening. Okay, so again, exactly the same technique, C shape with your darkest colour, which on this is the raspberry. Only thing about Prismacolors is they do not keep a tip for very long at all, so you have to be really, really careful with them. So again, I'm doing this very, very quickly and clumsily. But when you've done your C shapes, you should have something, that looks a little bit like that. Now going in with the processed red, just like we did with the yellow chartreuse on the last bunch of grapes. We're just filling in whatever's left. Now with the green grapes, you could put your highlight on there, but the colours are so light, you probably won't even be able to tell that there is a highlight on there. But with this dark sort of pink colours, you definitely will be able to. So again, just redefining that raspberry when we've put our processed red on, just in case it has blurred or lightened that colour, so we look like we've got a definite border to these grapes. And when that's done, you can do exactly what we did on the blackberry earlier, which is just go in and do a little bit of a dot on your upper right hand sides of each grape. Now if you do go a bit wrong or one's a little bit longer than you want it, you can go back in. Easier to do it when the white gel pen has dried, but you can go back in with your pencil and just tidy up that gel pen a little bit. So that's the red grapes. Now lastly we have the black grapes. So all we need for that is the colour black grape and dark purple. So I'll get those out. Dark purple, and where is black grape? Have we had it out? We have black grape Okay, exact same thing again. Darkest colour is the black grape. So we're making our C shapes with that. Okay, and then with your dark purple, filling in the rest. So even black grapes are obviously not black, just like the blackberry. They do have quite a reddish or purplish look when they're squeezed. So this just gives it that bit of dimension, that little bit of interest, rather than colouring them all very, very darkly. I mean, you can by all means colour them in black and then put your highlighted dots on there, and that will work brilliantly. But we have three very different colours of grapes here, which I think work really well and just gives you a few options when you're colouring. Okay, so when you're happy with how your grapes look, we'll finish with our little white dot. And you can try and curve this little white dot if you wanted, just to give it that impression of it being a round berry, but it depends how much room you have to work with. But there are three different bunches of grapes in three different colour schemes. So next we have our strawberry. So here I've got Try Crimson Lake, Scarlet Lake and Poppy Red. So I think we have Crimson Lake out already. Scarlet Lake is very, very tiny because I'm always using it. And Poppy Red, which is quite an orangey red. So it's definitely verging on from vermilion going into red. So we've got three very distinct shades of red here. Now with the strawberry, I'm going to make this side the darkest, this right side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with our darkest colour, the Crimson Lake, and follow that all the way down. And then where the strawberry dips inwards here, I'm going to just bring that out in a curve, just to give the strawberry a little bit of dimension. So just backward C shape, curve it out into the centre. Now again, we are making it lighter and lighter as we go towards the centre of the strawberry, and we're buffing the colour on very lightly rather than pressing hard as we do at the edge, just to leave that layer for the next colour to blend into, which is the Scarlet Lake. So we go straight over top and outwards. Now you may lose that line, don't worry, we can put it back in. We do want to burnish it and make it look very smooth and shiny. So once you've got this edge here that's not been coloured, that's the place for our Poppy Red. And we're going to just colour that completely solidly right to the edge. And then we're going to go over the Scarlet Lake with the Poppy Red, just to make sure that we haven't got too dark. It can be easy to start off with the first colour being quite large on the shape. That's one of my problems, and then you end up with no room for the last colour. So just making sure that we're not too dark with this strawberry. Just go over the whole thing with the Poppy Red. That line, as I mentioned earlier, you can put that back in with your Crimson Lake. And buff it out. Sometimes it's wax that you can see and not actually colour. So just check if you're working under an overhead light and it looks like you've put a very bold strike of colour on there. Just check, rub it a little bit with your finger just to get rid of the wax residue, and just check that it is actually pigment you've put down and not a shiny layer of wax, if that makes sense. Okay, so when you are happy with how that looks, just don't mind that bit there, you can get your white gel pen, and all of these little pips on the surface of the strawberry, you can put a piece of white or a layer of white or a little dot, a little curve on the left hand side of most of them. Now, I'm guessing that you've probably got quite a thick white gel pen, and that's just going to give you too much thickness to your curve, and it's just going to look a bit weird. So we're going to give it a few minutes, or seconds rather, to dry, and then we're going to go back in with the lightest colour, which is the poppy red, and as it's drying, just give it a little helping hand, we will go back in and refine those curves so that they're very, very thin, like a crescent. So this should be dry now, and as you can see, we're just thinning out the white, so it's very, very slight. It's not like a thick white slug, and it's just giving that impression of light all around the different pips. And there we go. So that looks perfectly shiny to me. Obviously you can add a little bit of black pen in there to bring up those dots again if you think they've been hidden by all of the coloured pencil that you've put down. You can do that. You can add more white, you can do whatever you want. So that's how I do the strawberry. Next up is the banana. So here we need putty beige and cream for the flesh of the banana. So let's get those two colours out first of all. So putty beige, what we do with that is we follow the lines in the flesh of the banana. So you can see there's some very, very faint lines here. And we put the putty beige down just like that, very, very easy. And the cream, we just go around and fill the rest in. So when you've done that, the cream is going to lighten the putty beige that you put down. So just go back in, darken it up a little bit, touch it up with the cream until you're happy with how that looks. So it really is as simple as that. Now for the actual skin of the banana, we need yellow ochre, canary yellow and apple green. So we have yellow ochre, canary yellow, apple green. So what we do here, again, following the lines of the skin, we use the yellow ochre, which is really quite a gold colour. It's a very underrated colour, and underused colour is yellow ochre. It's one of my favourites. Very, very golden. So again, each sort of stripe down the banana with the yellow ochre, then fill in what's left with the canary yellow, and then at the very bottom here you can add in the green, and we don't need much at all. This is just an impression of green. It's just to give the indication that the banana's sort of ripened or it's ripening, and you can go back in with either of those previous colours if you need to. So very, very simple, very effective. Now we can go back to the putty beige and the cream to get the inside of the skin here. So we're doing exactly the same thing. Lines in putty beige, rest of it in cream. And we have a little bit there just showing, and then on the outer edge of the skin that's flapped down here, we've got a line there that we can do with yellow ochre and fill the rest in with the canary yellow. So very, very simple, but quite effective, incorporating the green in there and the different types of the yellow. And also the flesh looks quite realistic because it is obviously quite light, but it does have dark, you know, stripes going down the banana as well. So that is a banana. Lastly, on this 4, we have the mango. Now we're going to be using all of the peach colours that we used above, plus an apple green. So if we go back to the peach that we did earlier, we used crimson red, we used cadmium orange hue, yellowed orange and sunburst orange, and then we need the apple green. So mango, very, very similar colours to the peach that we used, but quite a different pattern, if that makes sense. So with the mango, we're going to start off darkest colour at the top left hand side, which is the crimson red. And we're just doing curves like this, getting lighter and lighter as we go across and down into the shape. Now with the cadmium orange hue, that's going to be a transitional colour to the very, very light orange. So what we do is we bring this in on the right hand side and we go over the crimson red, the edges of the crimson red. And we want a sort of band of the yellow in the centre of the mango. So we're making sure that we've got all the edges of that crimson red coloured with the cadmium orange hue, because that's going to transition us on to the yellows. So we'll go with the yellowed orange, you don't need much at all, obviously it's quite a small example. So we have the yellowed orange and then the sunburst yellow. Now the sunburst yellow should blend quite nicely with the apple green. So we've needed all of those darker colours to transition to this one colour that will hopefully blend with the apple green. Obviously we couldn't just put crimson red and apple green together because they just would not blend. So the apple green here at the bottom of the mango. Try and get some variation in the pattern of where you put these. It doesn't have to be completely linear all the way down. Let's bring the green right up into here. And then use our sunburst yellow to blend that in. Again, as I've said before, you can use this lightest colour, this sunburst yellow, to go over the whole thing. Make it look more seamless. Don't use your fingers to wipe it like that or you will get smudge marks. That is my biggest bad habit for colouring. And you should end up with something that looks a little bit like this. So quite a variation in colour, and we've got all of the typical mango shades on there in quite a relatively small area. So that's the mango. Again, we don't need a highlight for that because mangoes are quite matte as well. Now we've got 2 more fruits left on the sheet, but I've got to move it up again. So here we go. So we have cherries and pineapple. So let's get all the pencils out that have just gone right underneath my sheet and stick it back down with the nice washi tape. Okay, so last 2 fruits. Cherries. Now we need black cherry, funnily enough. So we've got black cherry. We need Crimson Lake, which is, where are you, Crimson Lake? Scarlet Lake. Here we go, Crimson Lake, Scarlet Lake, and Permanent Red. So that's all of these colours just here. Now cherries, very, very similar to strawberries, but strawberries are quite a bit more lighter. They go into the poppy red, which is sort of an orange. Cherries stay very dark and more, definitely more into the red and dark red and even purple shades. So we're starting off with our black cherry, Again, we're just going to C-shape each cherry like this with the darkest colour. Let's give it a nice border. And don't go too thick with this because it is very dark. But just buff out some very light colour for our next one to blend into. Next colour is a very dark red, the Crimson Lake. And that's going to go over, completely over and above the black cherry that we just put down. So again, following your C shape, thinking about leaving, you know, the highlighted area in the top right corner. Leaving a nice light layer there for the Scarlet Lake to blend into. And you should be left with a little area in the top right corner for your lightest colour, which is the Permanent Red. So that is pretty much how to do a cherry in my style anyway. Let's do the other one just to match it up, make sure that we've got it. So a C shape with the black cherry. Light base layer for the, where are we? Crimson Lake. Leave a light base layer again for the Scarlet Lake. And just leaving that top right hand corner ready for the Permanent Red. And of course, beautiful cherries are very, very shiny and juicy, so they need a Colour with Claire highlight as well. I don't know why I said Colour with Claire highlight, probably because I use white gel pen on pretty much everything I colour. So we're going to give that highlight to that first cherry just there, and then here on the second as well. Now don't forget, once that's dry, if the shape isn't right, you need to touch up that highlight. You just go in there with your lightest red, the Permanent Red, and scrape it around, and that will narrow up your highlight a little bit. So that is cherries. Last but very not least, we've got the pineapple, and for this we need kelp green, yellow ochre, canary yellow, and some apple green for the leaves. So we already have our apple green, our canary yellow, and our yellow ochre. Just need to get out that kelp green. Where are you? It's hiding. Here we go. Kelp green. So pineapple, this was probably the most difficult one for me because there isn't a lot of space to work with, and also there's a lot more green in pineapples than you think. I always think of pineapples as, you know, like a yellow fruit, but they're not. So what we do here, or what I do, is I get the pencil very, very sharp, and every single diamond that appears within this pineapple is going to get a little green hat, just like that. So every diamond, just colour the top bit in a green sort of curve like that around the diamond. Now this definitely isn't a perfectly coloured pineapple, believe me. This is just the way that I could make it work in a very, very small area, and still look, you know, discernible as a pineapple. So once you've got all of your kelp green hats on each of these diamonds, you're going to go in with the yellow ochre and just colour a little noggin underneath each sort of peak of the green that you just put. This is just to sort of try and transition the green down to the canary yellow. Obviously kelp green and yellow ochre are not naturally blendable colours, but it does just, this yellow ochre does just have that dark tone to it which can help to transition. So when you've done that, you should have a little bit of space left at the bottom of each triangle for your canary yellow. So just, you don't have to be, you know, super precise with this, just touch it on just to give the look that it has got lighter, that it's some yellow in there, but it starts with green. I guess it depends how ripe your pineapple is. I'm not a pineapple eater, so I don't really have a lot of experience buying pineapples, but I guess it depends how ripe it is. Now, if it's not as sort of blended as you want it, or it just looks a bit weird, you can go in with the yellow ochre, just mess about and manipulate that kelp green a little bit. Push it back a little bit if you've done it too thickly, whatever you like. But you can also sort of go around the edges with a little bit of kelp green, a very slight bit as well, not much at all, just to contain the yellow. And I don't know, you can do that anyway if you want to. Okay, so that is basically pretty crappy pineapple. Now for the leaves, I am just going to show you how to do these leaves, or how I do them, because they are quite different to the other leaves. We're using the kelp green the same as we used on the flesh of the pineapple, the skin of the pineapple. And we're just going in right down the middle, making sure that the insides of these leaves are coloured darkest. Then we're bringing this apple green very, very simply over the kelp and up into the corners or the tips of the leaves. Now, very, very quick, as I seem to do everything very, very quick, very, very easy, very simple, and that is your basic pineapple. So that is it for the fruit colouring practice sheet today. As I said, I'm going to be doing cakes and sweet treats and things, and also vegetables as well. I really, really hope that you've enjoyed and got something out of this tutorial today. Please let me know in the comments if you have, and again, if you've enjoyed it, please hit the like button, the thumbs up, and also please subscribe to the channel. I love getting new subscribers. I'm so, so happy every time I see that my subscriber count's gone up by 1 or 2. So please, please subscribe to the channel. I will love you forever for it. And I will see you soon on Colour with Claire.